Your Life, Your Term show.
Okay, so I'm live. I'm here with Matt Hill. We have the honor of having Matt on. Matt, are you the founder of Start9?
Co-founder.
Co-founder. Yeah. Okay, so yourself and your partner. Who's your partner, please?
There were four originally.
Four partners.
Four co-founders. There are now two.
Okay.
So my current partner and co-founder is Aidan McClelland. He's our CTO.
Awesome. Okay, so just for our listeners who aren't familiar with Start9, can you just give us a quick description of what it is, what you guys do? We'll dive into it all.
Yeah. So Start9 is a company, and our primary activity is to develop an open source Linux-based operating system called StartOS. This is MIT licensed. We don't own it, but it is where we spend the majority of our time, efforts, energy, and money. And what we do as a company is we sell servers with StartOS pre-installed. We warranty those servers, and then we provide white glove on demand, quite incredible support for both the servers and the operating system, and a large chunk of services that are capable of being installed on the servers. We supply support for all of that. So as a company, that's what we do, is we develop an open source OS, we sell computers with it pre-installed, we warranty the computers, and then we provide support for both the computers and the software.
Okay. And what is the purpose of doing it, of Linux? Like, why have you chosen this path?
Well, we recognized a problem in computing, right, as a very broad category, which is that all or most, the vast majority of computing activities that humans around the world engage in are intermediated and custodied. This is a paradigm known as cloud computing. That is its colloquial term. And what it means is that your phone, your laptop, your desktop, and all the devices in your life, watches, cameras, smart speakers, you name it, are really just remote controls that are remotely controlling servers that are owned and operated by a small handful of big tech giants that is also shrinking, by the way. And that all of the data that these devices collect, whether input by you or collected from the environment by sensors, are fed to these servers, processed on these servers, and stored on these servers forever. So it is a fully intermediated model of computing. And we think that this is a huge problem, to put it lightly. We think this could, at scale and given enough time, pose a real threat to human dignity and quality of life, and potentially even lead to larger conflagrations like war in the future, if not fixed today, that this is a ticking time bomb of a problem. And so we set out to do whatever we could to try to fix this problem, to help solve it. And the solution to that is a disintermediated model of computing, where I and you, right, where we can communicate with each other without an intermediary, where I can store my digital files and exist in the digital realm without a custodian, without any third parties knowing what I'm doing or having any insight into it or being able to control it in any way. We cite four major problems with the current custodial, cloud-based, intermediated model of computing. Those are invasion of privacy, censorship, fees, cost, and the last one is counterparty risk, that these servers are storing everyone's data and are therefore attractive targets for hackers or larger entities like companies or even nation states. And so if your data is on these servers, even though you are not a target, you are civilian collateral damage in this cyber war. And so these are not problems that really can be solved within the cloud computing paradigm, right? We try to solve them. By we, I mean the companies and bureaucrats who are advocating or supposed to be representing the people, try to solve these problems by building up more and more layers of security, more and more piles of regulations, who companies like Apple, who seem to genuinely try to protect user data, they still want to be the custodian and intermediary, make no mistake, but at least they are trying to protect your data from other companies or governments who might want to access it, or at least that is the brand that they've created for themselves. What they're actually doing with the data is unknown, and that's sort of the essence of the problem. So anyway, cloud computing, broadly speaking, the centralized, intermediated, custodial model of computing is a disaster. We think in retrospect, it will be viewed by future generations as a silly little mistake that humanity made at the dawn of the information age that led to disastrous consequences. And we are here to help implement a better, more sustainable, more dignified model of computing that we call sovereign computing, just as a juxtaposition against cloud computing. We call it sovereign computing. Another word for it would be edge computing. And that means a disintermediated, non-custodial, totally peer-to-peer and self-contained model of computing. And that is a lofty goal, right? Not to do ourselves, but even to attempt to make a dent or a difference in that manner is a lofty goal. And so we wanted to be very practical about it and realistic about what we could actually achieve in our lifetimes. And what we realized is that the biggest, hands down, the biggest obstacle to the proliferation, the implementation and proliferation of sovereign computing was the lacking of an operating system that would enable a normal person to run a personal server. Because in our minds, in our model and understanding of computing, there is no way to achieve sovereign computing, a decentralized, disintermediated, non-custodial model of computing, without the mass proliferation of personal servers run by individuals, families, and businesses. That is a necessary prerequisite and aspect to the success of a sovereign computing model on Earth, is the mass proliferation of personal servers. And can anyone that you know, anyone I know, run personal servers effectively, cost effectively, and time effectively? The answer is no. You have to have IT skills, Linux systems administration experience, and a whole fuckload of time on your hands to be able to competently, effectively, and sustainably own and operate a personal server and run self-hosted services on it in order to opt out of third-party clouds. It's just an enormous undertaking that nobody has time or expertise to do. And so what we did was we solved the elephant in the room, or that's what we're attempting to do, which was to create an operating system that makes owning and operating a personal server as simple as owning and operating a personal phone or a personal computer or a laptop or a tablet. And it was just lacking. There just wasn't an operating system that enabled a normal person to run a server. It's not where the industry has put their efforts over the last 40 years. But it is what Apple and Microsoft did in the 80s, right? In the late 70s and 80s, they took what was an esoteric hobbyist, fringe activity known as personal computing and brought it to the masses. How did they do that? They did it by creating a point-and-click graphical operating system that made owning and operating a personal computer accessible to anyone. And we're doing the exact same thing that they did. We're just doing it for a different kind of computer. It's not a personal computer. It's a personal server. It's a different kind of computer, but it still needs to be administered, and computers are administered via their operating systems. That's how it works. And so we set out to build what many people, even the advanced Linux sysadmins and IT professionals, would have considered to be a fruitless effort, not only because nobody wants it, but because it's really, really hard, which is to build operating system that enables a normal person to own and operate a personal server. What that means, more specifically, is embodying the entire Linux sysadmin skill set into a point-and-click graphical interface. And most people who have that skill set would call bullshit. They would say, you can't encode what I do into buttons that grandma can click, because they view themselves as having this highly advanced esoteric skill set that took years of trial and error and practice and headbanging against the wall to master, as something that can't be diluted down and encoded into an operating system. And we disagreed. Having those skill sets ourselves, we disagreed. And so over the last 6 years, we have tirelessly built out Start OS, which is the name of the operating system that we developed, to the point where all around the world, thousands of people who have no Linux sysadmin experience or IT skills are effectively owning and operating their own personal servers on Start OS. So we did it. We're not done. Long way to go. It needs to get better. It needs to get more reliable. It needs to get more secure. There needs to be more redundancies, but it works and we're on the right track. And that is step one, not the end game. That's step one to implementing a sovereign computing paradigm in this world, is an operating system that makes owning and operating a personal server possible. So for fear of repeating myself even more, I'm done.
That's probably the best introduction and background summary of anyone we've ever had on the show. That was great. You summarized everything for me there. Okay, so this show is all about living life on your terms. And our audience, some are computer savvy, some may not be computer savvy. You laid out some pretty serious consequences of, the centralized computer system, centralized servers, even leading to something as drastic as war. So can you just lay out for our audience, can you peel the onion on this thing and just describe how some of these things, censorship, privacy leaks, cyber warfare, just how this could impact people's lives and why they should even care about something like this in the first place? Owning their own server, running their own computer, the need for a product like yours. I've got one over my left or right shoulder. I can't see which one, but Tom's got it set up here in his office / podcast studio and is running a Bitcoin node from it, but he also intends to do some more stuff. So I want to dig into everything you can do with the Start 9, the product that you sell and operate. But I would like to know, for the listeners, why should they care about this? How is this going to help them live life on their terms?
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
I'll go through them one by one. So, invasion of privacy, we'll start with that.
Sure.
This is actually a popular one, right? And most of your listeners, whether they understand how it all works or not, will care about this. People don't like being spied on. I mean, it's not just a matter of, well, I have nothing to hide, so I don't care. It's just kind of undignified to have 16 employees from 16 different companies sitting in your living room while you have a private conversation with your wife and children, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're saying anything good or bad. It's just like, why are you here? You have no business being here. This is my private space. And we seem to have discarded private spaces in the digital realm. As a society, we're willing to do that, or we were, until it became apparent what was happening. So, why is invasion of privacy bad? Well, the corollary to that is, why is privacy good? And there's a long list of reasons why privacy is good, right? There is one, straight up dignity, which is what I touched on just a second ago. Another is an insurance policy against the future, right? So even if you are saying something now in a private chat with your friend that is perfectly acceptable in today's day and age, who's to say that there's not going to be some massive political swing or revolution in the country that makes, people who ever said a certain thing kind of, now a person of interest, right? So the internet lives forever. Everything that you say, everything that you write, all your data lives forever. It doesn't matter whether you hit delete on the iCloud file or not. It's still there. There's still an archive. And so you will always be held accountable for everything you have ever said or done, even if in today, in this place and this time, it's acceptable. It might not be in the future. So you need to think about the future. Privacy is an insurance policy against political changes in the future. Another one is a check against runaway power of the state, right? So it's really important that the political constituency of a nation state called the people, right, the ultimate power of any society, have the ability to communicate privately for the sake of resisting tyranny, right? So if everything you say can be monitored, tracked, intermediated, recorded and used against you, it's going to be really hard to mount a resistance against runaway central power. Let's say, some horrible people get into office and are actually trying to tear away God-given rights of people. It is our duty to resist that, to fight back and protect ourselves against tyranny. And that's really hard to do if you can't call up your fellow, revolutionary and say, hey, let's go do this, or let's talk, let's do this, right? If you can't organize in cyberspace, you can't organize, right? This isn't the analog world anymore. This is the information age, right? In the past, pockets of resistance would emerge at the local pub, Now they're going to arise in chat rooms. And if those chat rooms are surveilled by 16 different agencies around the world, you're not going to get very far, So privacy is an important check against tyranny, just like the Second Amendment and gun rights are, right? We view privacy as equally important in maintaining a healthy society and political system. There's extortionary capabilities with invasion of privacy, meaning if you, for example, are talking to a friend of yours or a family member in your home about how desperately you need some item or another, and Alexa hears this conversation, and forwards that information to Amazon, and Amazon starts showing you ads for the thing you need. But again, just this, maybe not extortion, but being manipulated by companies that are, unduly invading your private space in order to understand you better, in order to manipulate you. Obviously, you have the ultimate choice of whether you spend your money or not, but you don't necessarily want to show all your cards, right? There's this concept of, keeping things to yourself, not because you have something to hide or because, it's illegal or anything like that, but because if you are an open book for every company and government on earth to know everything about you, who knows what ways you can be taken advantage of, right? There's an infinite number of ways that can be used against you in a fairly covert, even algorithmic way, where it's not even humans that are listening to this and doing it. It's just the bots suddenly profile you as somebody who needs workout equipment. Next thing you know, your whole world is flooded with workout equipment and blah. It's just silly, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. You should be able to express outwardly what you want, not be invaded internally. That's just one. That's just invasion of privacy. And if that was the only problem with cloud computing, we'd still be doing what we're doing. Okay. But it's not. It gets worse. Okay. So number 2 is censorship. When everyone is communicating on and through third-party platforms that are owned and operated by, big tech companies and governments who regulate them, the information that's available, the truth, so to speak, is theirs to control. All right. And this is done in subtle ways that people don't realize, but really should by now. This isn't about outright deplatforming or blatant propaganda. Yes, those exist, right? There is this concept of you said bad things and you're out. And there's also this like clear propaganda that comes through in like kind of mainstream media sources. That's obvious stuff that people have somewhat become accustomed to and are kind of revolted by. But there's a much more subtle and insidious means of propaganda and censorship, which is this sort of algorithmic amplification and algorithmic suppression of certain messaging. Okay, it's like a dial, like X, Twitter, there's just a dial. And it's like, okay, people can say and do whatever they want. We're not going to deplatform anyone. We're not going to shove anything down people's throats. Just it's an open free speech space. However, there's this sort of custom feed concept, right? Where you're going to view your tailored feed, and it's trying to predict what it thinks you want to see.
Hey everyone, before we dive back into the podcast, I've got a quick shout out about the Your Life, Your Terms report. This is Tom's weekly newsletter where he and Nick share real stories, experiences, and powerful insights to help you live life on your terms. Each week, Tom breaks down the economy, real estate, macro trends, and Bitcoin, and gives you actionable steps to make these insights work for you. No fluff, no vague predictions, just a clear path to thriving no matter what's going on in the world. Tens of thousands of Canadians are already getting the real information they need to level up their lives every week. I can honestly say it's the only newsletter that I've stayed subscribed to for years. It delivers real value that keeps me coming back for more. Join us and start getting the insights and tools to create the life you want, plus entertaining and inspiring stories from Tom and Nick along the way. Sign up for free at rockstarinnercircle.com/get started and start living life on your terms. That's rockstarinnercircle.com/get started. Your first step to living life on your terms.
But there's also a dial that just says, crank up the humor or crank up the anger, right? And it can make you feel different ways at different times depending on what the goal is. And it can make certain information feel very, very common. So you can get on X and 10 minutes later, after scrolling for 10 minutes, feel like the world is burning. Okay. Like just everything is on fire. Everyone is murdering each other. There's horrible people lurking around every corner. Like that can happen.
It's a common experience.
On purpose.
Yes.
Not because it's true, not because everything is burning and there's people lurking around every corner, right? It's because it's designed to do that, to make you have that perspective and feel that emotion. But you could also, right, at a different time, get on there and scroll for 5 minutes, be like, man, the dogs are really being funny today. There's so many cute cat videos. Everyone's making cat videos, right? So you take this kind of subjective, ephemeral experience and in a very natural human way, extrapolate it to all of reality. You think that your experience is the experience. And this is a very natural psychological process that takes place. And you can be used against you in these very, very subtle and horribly insidious ways, these manipulative ways, and for the variety of purposes, right? It can be used for commercial purposes, political purposes, but whoever controls the dial has this enormous amount of power. And right now that's Elon Musk at X, right? And Mark Zuckerberg over at Facebook. And even they have conversations with politicians. And, like Elon openly stated he was helping Trump to get elected, right? And that is 100%, believe me, the algorithm at X was tuned to help make that possible. It doesn't matter whether you like the politician, dislike the politician, whether you like the guy who has the dial or don't like the guy. None of that matters. The point is that someone has that power. Yeah. That's a ridiculous power to have, to just control entire populations by turning dials like that. And so it's not just social media either, right? Censorship extends beyond just the public square of social media. It extends into terms and conditions of SaaS, software as a service products, right? Like Google Drive, all right? So you could use Google Drive, but during the COVID era, if you saved any files to Google Drive that contained text that were anti-vaccination, Google Drive suspended your account for having improper or unauthorized files on your server. So I shouldn't say your server, on their server, right? It's when you use somebody else's server for your computing needs, it's like going to somebody else's house, their rules. It's not about, these aren't government entities. You don't have any rights. Okay. This is a private space. When you use iCloud, you are entering Apple's private space and they get to make the rules there. And their terms and conditions can change daily. They notify you, our privacy policy has changed. Do you read those updates? Do you have any idea what Apple's privacy policy is around iCloud? It's probably 13,000 pages long, changes every other week. And if you are in violation of any of them, your data is now their data and they can cut you off. That is effectively censorship, not in the political sense of the word. It's just in the you are not in control sense of the word. You can be banned, kicked out, and your behavior limited by whatever company you're using. Mm-hmm. That's number two. And if it was the only thing, it would be bad enough, right? But it's not. It gets better.
Please paint the picture, Matt. You're painting a good picture for us.
There is a happy ending to all of this, and it's what
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
What we and others are doing, but it's bleak right now. So number three is cost. Just pure economic consideration, okay? When you use somebody else's equipment and space and time to do things, you got to pay them, right? Nothing's free. Apple's not running these servers for free. They're not spending the electricity and buying the hard drives and the computers and the chips for free. You're using their computer. You have to pay them for this service, right? Just like anything in life. If you want to use somebody else's car, you got to pay them. Well, we use other people's servers all day long. We expect it to be free, right? And it was a trick, to be honest. It was a sales trick, right? We got lured in. And we became the product, right? When you use a free app, you are paying with your data. They are collecting everything they possibly can about you and selling it to advertisers. Your data is worth money. And not only are you paying with your data, but then it, again, as I mentioned earlier, it can even be used against you in sort of manipulative ways, right? And when you have, 50 free apps, well, that's 50 different companies that are trying to collect everything they can about you and sell it to the highest bidder. Your information is everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Where you go, who you talk to, how often you talk, your entire browsing history, all of it is in 50 different locations now with every free app that you use. And so some people are waking up to this and they don't like it, right? And so what they do is rather than, demanding to pay, like no more free apps, I want to pay you, right? People don't do that. They just say, I want it to be free, but you can't collect my data, okay? And what they do is they then put pressure on politicians because people are children by and large. And so they pressure mommy and daddy to go regulate the tech industry. And they say, don't let them collect my data. So now laws get passed, which is like GDPR and shit like that, where it's like big tech companies, you can't collect people's data, right? At least with not asking them, which is why every app that you download now says, we would like to collect your data. Do you agree? And what do? You hit no, right? Everyone hits no, like, no, don't monitor me, okay? If I have a choice between being surveilled and not being surveilled, I'm gonna hit no. Well, if you hit no, all we're doing in this process is destroying the revenue model of the companies that are giving us the free apps. So what do? How do they survive? How do they backfill the lost revenues? Well, they just charge you directly. They're like, okay, great. So we can't collect your data and monetize that. So here's your monthly subscription. $5 a month, $6 a month, $7 a month, up and up and up and up. And it's every app now. Everything that you use maybe has this like tiny little free tier, but if you actually want to use it for real, you got to start paying a monthly fee. So now they're double dipping, right? Because again, even though the politicians got the laws to make the companies say they won't collect your data, they're still allowed to covertly on behalf of the government. And so basically you're now getting double whammied, right? Your data is getting collected and monetized in more insidious ways because it's now under the table dealings because it's been regulated. And number two is you're being charged directly at the same time. So now you're paying out of your pocket and you're paying with your data. And this trend is only growing. And if you talk to any investor in Silicon Valley over the last 10 years, they will tell you that there is one business model that they are interested in investing in, and that is monthly recurring revenue. That is SaaS, software as a service. Make them sign up for an account, sign them up for a 1-year deal, and then chokehold them, right? Like make them dependent on the service and just keep locking them in for these multi-year deals. That is the model of computing right now. And so it's extortionary, right? Because if you're using something that you rely on, like iCloud, let's say you're using an iPhone, you rely on iCloud for all your data, and the thought of getting off of iCloud is just this huge undertaking. It's like my entire life is on this thing, my entire chat history, all my photos, everything. I can't get out. Getting out is a huge lift. Like switching platforms is a big deal. Well, why can't Apple just keep turning up the price? Right? Making the data tiers higher and higher. Like you're setting yourself up to be extorted effectively when you depend on a service that you don't understand and is difficult to get out of. That's number 3, right? And maybe if that was the only problem, it wouldn't be worth the effort that we're putting in, but somebody would still try it, right? But again, not necessarily as bad as invasion of privacy and censorship, at least in my opinion, because people can make economic decisions all day long, but still bad. Okay. Number 4 is the one that nobody thinks about and is more of a black swan event. Okay. It's more of it's less daily occurrence, like something that you would recognize on a day-to-day basis, and more like a huge bomb getting dropped every once in a while, which is this counterparty risk of centralized data stores. So when you, me, and everybody else shoves all of our data onto a Google server, onto an Apple server, that's like everybody putting all their gold into a single bank vault and everyone knowing where that bank vault is. It's only a matter of time before someone tries and eventually succeeds at getting into that vault. And the reason why it's only a matter of time is because ultimately there are always humans who have keys to the vault. If there weren't humans that had keys to the vault, especially in emergency situations, that would be a huge and unacceptable risk to the company who's storing the data, right? What if the systems fail? We can't get into the vault. There's always humans, and multiple of them for the sake of redundancy, who have the master key to the vault with everyone's gold in it. So getting into the vault is not a matter of cybersecurity. It is not a matter of encryption. It is not a matter of brute force attacks or any kind of like Hollywood style pounding a keyboard faster than the other hacker. It's none of that. This is just straight up social engineering at a pub. Okay. All you got to do is find the right guy who's got the keys and blackmail him, bribe him, threaten him, seduce him, whatever you got to do. Just get the damn keys from that guy. Hold his family hostage. Doesn't matter, right? Eventually, those keys are getting leaked. And so every server that is worth hacking will eventually be hacked, is our statement. And that when these happen, they can vary from, Target got hacked and 10 million people's emails got leaked, to Equifax and Experian got hacked and, 200 million people's social security numbers got leaked. Wait till Google gets hacked and everyone's photos get leaked into the hands of hackers. And not only their photos, but their entire contact lists, their entire chat histories. And now suddenly, especially with the assistance of AI, normal people around the world start getting emails that say, hello, I have all of your photos from 10 years ago that you definitely don't want your parents and your wife to see. And I'm going to send it to them and everyone else and post them online unless you send me X amount of Bitcoin by tomorrow. And this is going to be an AI sending you this email. It's going to be totally inhuman, totally ruthless. Everyone can get blackmailed by this model. And it's only a matter of time where things like this start to happen in increasing frequency. We've already seen some of it. Some of this ransomware stuff is already starting, but it hasn't hit the population like it's going to in a real breakout cyber war, which is coming. That's it. That's the problems with the current model of computing. And as I mentioned earlier, those problems cannot be solved within the model itself. They are inherent to the model. You can take measures within the model to mitigate some of these problems or to kick them down the road, right? And prevent them for a little while. But ultimately, these are fundamental flaws with the centralized nature of computing infrastructure on Earth today. So we need a different model, period. Or otherwise, these things will continue to worsen to the point where, entire populations could be at risk in very meaningful, serious ways, which itself would then lead to, civil disobedience and discontent, which can then lead to, a retaliation from the state, which would then lead to a larger revolt, which would then be silenced through a false flag and pointed at another country and yada, yada, yada. This is why I said it could lead to war, is because ultimately severely disenfranchised and discontented populations are usually dealt with by scapegoating some other country or person for the problems, which is then, can escalate.
Yeah, it's terrifying stuff, man. It's absolutely terrifying stuff. Especially the last one. I don't know why. Just the thought of getting blackmailed by AI on, messages or something with friends 10 years ago.
Yep.
I mean, fully realistic scenario. Like if that you deleted, sure, yeah. So when you delete this stuff, does it ever go away? Is there some internal time frame that on their internal server, okay, we're going to keep like all text message history for, let's say, 7 years. And then after 7 years, it gets wiped?
Why would they wipe it after 7 years?
I don't know.
Storage is cheap. Storage is free. It's so cheap. It's really? Never getting deleted ever. Nothing is ever getting deleted.
It's terrifying. Okay. Yeah. Well, you've laid out the issues quite well, Matt. Can you bring us full circle to what a potential solution might be?
Yeah.
Because I think anybody that just listened to that doesn't want that. I think that's obvious.
No, I think we owe it to future generations to fix this.
Right? Fair enough.
Fuck us. We're screwed. We already put everything up there. We're already sort of ensnared in this trap, but we can still save our children or their children, right? And maybe we can even wiggle out and have a decent, happy ending as well. But that's not really the point. The point is to fix this for the future. This is a serious problem on Earth right now.
Okay.
And so the solution to this problem is what we have coined as sovereign computing. Okay. Doesn't matter what you call it. Maybe a better term will emerge over time. It's the best that we have thought of. And it is the inverse, the opposite of cloud computing, which is centralized intermediate custody. Sovereign computing means that you can do all of the same things that you would ordinarily do in the cloud computing model. Text messaging, photo, sharing, syncing across devices, just everything that you normally do on your phone and laptop, you can do over here. There's just no third-party servers involved, right? All the data are sent to, processed on, and stored on private servers in your home or in your place of business, and as many as you want, right? Like they can be purposed for different reasons. So the solution to cloud computing is sovereign computing. Sovereign computing is defined by individuals using computers to do ordinary things in which the data are processed and stored on private servers instead of public servers. That's it from a kind of high level standpoint. What that means is that you and whoever else wants to get out of these public cloud servers and eliminate all of those problems I just listed, you need a private server. There is no other solution here. Don't get sold snake oil, okay? Anyone who's like, no, you can totally use this central service provider because they're doing it better than this other one, okay? They use encryption or they care about their customers because their billboards say so, okay? All of that, even if true today, and even if better, right? I'm not saying they're all equal. There are definitely degrees of shit here, right? Like there's horrible companies who are just all over, like Facebook, right? They're just notorious for just digging into every aspect of your life. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there's like Apple, right? Which is kind of known for its respect of its users and best of privacy practices. They're all still in the same category of people who are all up in your shit, okay? There's just degrees of badness in there. But in a sovereign computing paradigm, they're not there at all. You replace the services that they provide and you do it for yourself. It's like instead of going to a restaurant and buying food, you grow it in your backyard and eat it. right? It's the digital equivalent of that, except I would argue that this is probably easier than growing your own food. Like that's actually a fairly challenging endeavor, especially if you want like a lot of different food and a well-balanced diet. This is really easy and cheap too. What's really cool about it, about opting into the sovereign computing paradigm and out of the cloud computing paradigm, is that there is no network effect. You don't need other people to do it too. It's not like social media where, okay, I'm going to go to this new social media platform, but it's a ghost town and nobody is there, right? So in order to bootstrap a social media network, you need, like heavy influencers and popular people to like get in there and promote it. And none of that exists here. In the same way that growing your own food is a personal decision, right, to eat healthier and to save money. It doesn't matter if nobody else on earth is growing their own food. You're still garnering the benefits of growing your own food, right?
Yeah.
But what happens when everyone chooses to do that? What happens when everyone grows their own food and eats really healthy? You end up with a healthier society. Suddenly, there isn't this massive kind of cost of taking care of unhealthy people, et cetera, et cetera. Like all of society benefits when each individual takes responsibility for themselves and for their own health and well-being. But it's not the reason they're doing it, right? At least it shouldn't be, right? It's not like you grow your own food to benefit everyone else. It's kind of a silly concept. Like, I'm going to grow my own food so that those people are healthy. No, you're doing it so that you are healthy. But if everyone does that, then society is. So it's really a secondary consideration. And it's why we think sovereign computing has a real fighting chance of garnering adoption, is because it doesn't have this network effect. If you are the only person on Earth running your own private server and using it for all your normal day-to-day computing activities, you're still benefiting. You've lost nothing by the fact that nobody else is doing it. Your digital hygiene is perfect.
Yeah.
But if lots of other people do it, then suddenly it undermines, some of the more corrupt and horrible entities that have ever walked this earth, and it limits government's ability to abuse their power. And so all of society benefits. But you do it for you, and then you encourage other people to do it for them. And if everyone does it, then you solve this massive problem that I have outlined.
Okay. Can I ask you what services you can do? So you can pretty much do everything that you can through Google or Apple or I don't know what even the other big monopolies would be. You can do it all Microsoft through your own server.
Facebook and X.
Microsoft, Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so explain it. So if I am text messaging or if I'm using iMessage, how does it work if it's through my own server?
Yeah. So in theory, anything that can be done in the cloud computing model can also be done in the sovereign computing model. In theory,
there's no way or differently?
No, in the same exact way with no loss of user experience. In theory, that's theory, okay?
Okay.
There is no theoretical limitation to what can be done in the sovereign computing paradigm. An equal user experience and security as the cloud. In fact, I would argue that the sovereign one is far more secure because it eliminates this massive collection of centralized data, right? Your server is not worth hacking. Nobody's going to risk their life and liberty to break into your home and hack your server or socially engineer you in order to get your photos. Like what? You know what I mean? The reason Google servers are being attacked is because they have everyone's data. So if everyone has their own data, it's far more secure because you would have to hack 100 million people individually as opposed to one person to get 100 million people's data, right? So the fundamentally different security model. But in terms of what you can do, right? So everything can be done. Most of that is already possible today. There are very few things today that you cannot do in the sovereign computing model. Very few. However, I'd argue a good chunk of those things, the things that you can do, okay? Let's say 95% of the things that you would want to do with a computer can be done in the sovereign computing model today. 95%. However, I would say 70% of those, 70% of that 95% come with a small degradation in user experience in the sovereign computing model, meaning they are not quite as easy or convenient. Okay. But it's small. It's much smaller than people think, and it's way smaller than it was 5 years ago. This stuff has come a long way very, very quickly. And there's a reason for that. So let's do a specific example here, and then we can extrapolate it to the general case in a second. But let's do a specific example like text messaging, okay? So in the cloud computing model of text messaging, you have a variety of options. You can use Verizon or AT&T or whatever to just send text messages, and that's being intermediated by telecom. Okay, that's being intermediated by the tech giants of telecom like Verizon. You can download an app and use that instead, something like WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal. Signal is a very popular one for people who are privacy oriented. So you can download an app and use that. And in that model, it's fairly convenient, right? You download an app, you create an account, right? That's always the telltale of cloud computing. If you have to create an account, it's not your data, okay? You create an account and check a box that says, yes, I agree to the terms and conditions and privacy policy. It's not yours anymore. You've just signed it all away. So when you do that, it's fairly convenient. You create an account and then you start using the app, right? Like you tell your friend, you call your friend, you say, hey, we're using Signal now because, it's encrypted, it's end-to-end encrypted. And so we're going to use that now. So your friend downloads Signal and you exchange usernames or you scan some QR codes and you're off and texting, okay? From that moment forward, every single text that you and that person exchange is known by Signal, right? They know who you are, where you are, who you're talking to, how often you talk to them, the approximate length of the messages, and any other metadata that happens to be leaked by your phone's operating system. So they know an enormous amount about you, even if they can't read the content of the messages themselves. And I would argue that even that could be called into question, but that's not a conversation for this call. So that is how it works in the cloud computing paradigm. You download an app, create an account on somebody else's server, and then you use that app and they watch everything. They monitor everything about you. Okay. In the sovereign computing model for text messaging, the experience is very, very similar with a slight tweak. Okay. In the sovereign computing model, first you log into your server and download a text messaging app. All right. My favorite is Simple X. Wonderful. Okay. So you download the Simple X service. There's a difference here, right? We're introducing a new computing paradigm, and so there's going to be just a little bit of education necessary, which is why we should provide such incredible support as a company and team, is because we know this can feel a bit foreign and people need to learn the lingo. But it's way easier than you think. First of all, for anybody who I just scared off by saying there's something to learn, trust me, you can, right? This is like really basic elementary stuff. You can learn it. But one of the new concepts is this concept of a service, as opposed to an app, okay? Apps are things that you install on your laptop, things that you install on your cell phone. These are what you think of when you think of the word app. It's something that you go to the App Store, the Google Play Store to install onto your client device, right? Mm-hmm. Services, by contrast, are things that you install on your server. These are the back end, the engine, the under the hood thing that runs on the backside of the app, okay? When you download Signal or WhatsApp, that thing is run by Signal and WhatsApp. They're running the engine, and your app is connected to that engine and talking to it, okay? But in the sovereign computing model, you run the engine, you run your own back end and engine, and so you have to go get it. You have to download it. But it's the same as downloading an app, right? So you go to your server dashboard, which is just a website, easy thing to administer, and you choose what you want to install. So you go, I want to do messaging in a sovereign way, a totally private, sovereign, self-contained, dignified way. I'm going to do messaging. So you go to our marketplace, and you download Simple X. And that installs it onto your server. Okay, that's a new thing, but it takes 2 seconds. Very easy.
Okay.
Now you go to your phone.
Okay.
You go to the App Store, the Google Play Store, whatever, and you download Simple X, the app. Okay. So there's Simple X, the service, and then there's Simple X, the app. So now you have Simple X, the service running on your server, and Simple X, the app running on your phone. And when you open up Simple X, the app, part of the setup process, instead of just creating a username and password, right? Instead of creating an account on somebody else's server, there's now kind of 3 pieces of information that are necessary instead of 2. Instead of just creating a username and password, what you're doing now is you tell the app, first of all, where the server is. You give it the address of the server. It's literally a URL. You like paste in the URL of the server. Okay.
So is it kind of like an IPTV setup?
I mean, it could be an IP address, it could be a domain, it could be a Tor hidden service. There's lots of different ways to connect to the server. Yeah. It's actually one of the hardest problems with self-hosting is networking. Okay. This idea of how do computers talk to each other and find each other on the internet? It's a very complicated thing. Yeah.
I'm very computer illiterate, Matt, but it just reminds me when I set up an IPTV and there was the service that you connect to your point.
IPTV? You talking about a television?
So it's an IPTV service. So it's basically like an online server of movies and TV shows that you connect to. And then I downloaded an app to my TV, which connects to my personal server where I can watch all those movies and shows and whatnot.
Okay. Yeah, I was unfamiliar with the term, but yes.
Oh, okay, cool.
You are
maybe it's a Canadian.
It's a product. It sounds like a product of some kind.
Yeah, it's an
like
online
a specific kind of app, or so that I think it's bespoke terminology to that product. Or not. Maybe there's just some piece of this that I don't know. But regardless, the concept is the same. You are going to connect the TV, the phone, the laptop to some remote resource. Okay.
Totally.
So you input the address of the service that's running, right? And then you create a username and password. In Simple X, it's a little different because Simple X doesn't have accounts per se. It's more public key cryptography based. So like the phone is the identity. Anyway, it's a little bit different. But the common and high level understanding that anyone should leave this conversation with is that instead of downloading an app and creating an account on somebody else's server, in our model, you download an app and create an account on your server. And in order to do that, you have to tell the app where your server is. So you provide it with a URL, a username and a password, as opposed to just a username and a password. That's it. That's the only difference. And then once you've set this up, once you've installed the service, installed the app, connected the app to the service, now you just use it like you would use any other messaging app. You just open it up on your phone, you send a text message, and the other person receives it. Except instead of the communication going from your phone to a Signal server to their phone, it's going from your phone to your own server to their phone, and is therefore completely, provably, undeniably, and forever private and secure.
That's so cool, man. So then if somebody that I'm texting sends me a text back, it's still going to their centralized server because they don't have this.
They would connect to your server.
Oh, so even their text message. So I have
Simple X. They would create an account on your server.
Oh, got it. Well, okay. Well, let's say I've set this up for myself. I have a Start9 OS. I download Simple X, the service. I download the app to my iPhone.
You connect
to my server. And then I send my friend a text message. And
then you can't send them a text message until they also download Simple X.
Oh, so it can't connect to other people who aren't.
Think about it. If you're using Signal or WhatsApp, can you message somebody who doesn't have Signal or WhatsApp? It's no different than the current paradigm.
Got it. Okay.
If you're going to use Simple X, they need to use Simple X. It's like these things don't bridge each other. I mean, technically they can. There are layers of bridges and stuff, but that's more technical and advanced. Like the simple way to do this is to call your friend and be like, hey, we're going to use Simple X from now on. Here's what you need to know. 5 minutes later, you're texting.
Okay. So does that same rule apply to all of these different services? Like, let's say you want to do file sharing or some sort of service similar to a Google Doc or a Google Sheet where you can share an online spreadsheet or document. the same thing would apply. They have to also have the same application or same service. I don't know how you want to call it.
Well, service is what goes on the server. App is what goes on the phone or laptop, right?
Yeah.
So they do not need their own server.
Okay.
Yeah, there are very few cases where somebody like needs their own server in order to interact with you who are using your server.
Okay.
Right? You get your server for your own sake.
Got it.
It does not, nobody else needs to get one. You can connect with friends and family in your life and they can just use your server. But they need to understand that when they do that, you are now Google, Apple, Microsoft, and the government all rolled up in one. You can see everything that they do on your server. It's your server now. It's like them coming to your house to do their computing needs. If they don't want to do that, if they don't trust you, then they can get their own server. And now your server can talk to their server and everyone is secure and nobody's trusting anyone. That's kind of again, why we think this is going to work is because you can do it for you. Nobody else, and you can still then use it with people in your life. And then maybe eventually they'll do it for them in order to not have to rely on you. It's like you growing food for the whole community. If you go get a server and you go around to all your friends and family and you're like, hey, everyone, we don't have to use Signal and WhatsApp and Telegram anymore. We can use our own Matrix server or our own SimpleX server. They all create accounts on your server, but you have an enormous amount of power now. Mm-hmm. As the server administrator. They're all processing their messages and data through you now. And so you should probably encourage them to not do that. You should be like, hey, this works, but get your own. Why are you relying on me to grow your food? Grow your own. It's not hard, right? And they have you now to teach them, to spread the good word and show them how it's done, right? So everyone can take responsibility for not only themselves, but for then educating their children and their loved ones and their friends as well. And they have an incentive to do that because you're benefiting and you want them to benefit because you care about them. You don't want them to have to rely on you for stuff.
So for any collaborative application where you need multiple people involved to kind of use that application, such as messaging each other, such as working on a document together or a spreadsheet together, you need to be using the same application.
By application, you mean app? Yes. Like
app,
the client app. Yes.
Yes. So for example, text message would be SimpleX.
Yeah.
Right?
Or
I don't know what the other ones would be called.
There's others. So there's competitors, but take like in the world today, if you were using Google Docs,
they need to use
Google Drive and Google Docs to do a collaborative document, right?
Yes.
They need to be using Google Docs, right? Like they can't be using Microsoft Teams and you're using Google Docs and you're working on the same document at the same time. That doesn't work. So if you want to do a collaborative document with somebody, you would use Nextcloud, right? So you would install Nextcloud, the service, onto your server. Then you would install the Nextcloud app onto your phone and computer. This can also be done through the web, by the way. You don't necessarily need an app. Right? There are web apps. Like you can go to websites. Like Google Docs can be done on your browser, right? You can go into your browser and edit a collaborative doc, or you can download an app onto your phone and edit that same collaborative doc. Like web apps are apps. People tend not to think of websites. Like you go to blah.com and sign in with your username and password. People tend not to think about that as an app. But it is. It is an app. It's just running in the web. It's running in the browser. So we call those web apps. There are native apps. That's stuff you install from the Play Store or the App Store onto your phone. And then there are web apps. These are apps that you access through a browser. This is no different in the sovereign computing paradigm. There are apps that you can install onto your phone that will access your personal server. And there are web apps that you can go into the browser that will also access your personal server and are in fact served from your personal server. Your server actually delivers these web apps to the internet on private websites. So instead of going to google.com or like docs.google.com for documents, you would go to like docs.mydomain.com and it would be your website where anyone in your friends and family circle could create an account, log in, and do collaborative document editing with you right from their browser. They don't even need to download an app. They can literally just go to your personal private website and do document editing with you. Video conferencing, same thing. You want to have a video chat one-on-one with a friend on the other side of the world, or a group video chat like a Zoom meeting with 10 of your friends? All of that can be done on your server simply by sharing a URL with your 10 friends and being like, hey, everyone, go click this link, turn on your camera like you would if you were using Zoom or Jitsi or anything else, and boom, you're video conferencing all around the world, and the video signals are going right through your home server in your home. There's no Zoom, there's no Google, no nothing.
Okay. Now, can I be anywhere in the world? Can I be at a cafe in Brazil and connect to my server at home in Canada?
Easy.
Okay.
It's just the web.
Just the web, the same way I just go on Google. Okay, Matt, I'm telling you, you really have to spell this stuff out for me. Okay?
I am. What's crazy is it's like there's so much overlap between cloud computing and sovereign computing in terms of user experience.
Yeah,
that it actually causes people, when I'm trying to explain sovereign computing to people, I'm actually explaining cloud computing, right? Like, people have no idea how their current computers work.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's a fair point.
It's like I go to a website and I do things, but they've never thought about like how that's actually working. Like, where does that website come from? When I type things into it, where does it go? Where is the data stored? And so I'm sitting here explaining or sovereign computing to people, and they're like, oh, this sounds so complicated. It's like never going to work. People aren't going to adopt this. And I'm like, dude, it's identical to how you're currently using computers. There's no difference.
Yeah, sure. There's just a learning curve.
It's just requiring you to think about it for the first time, you know? And
well, you know what it's like, Matt? It's similar to Bitcoin in that you need to kind of start learning about this parallel system in order to have the perspective to look back at the other system you were kind of born into and used your whole life to have that outside perspective.
Exactly. Like, people don't think about money until they learn about Bitcoin.
Exactly. There's this saying I heard, and it's like, you can't see the label when you're inside the jar. And so it's like, when you're inside the jar, you can't see the label. You never question it, right? But you need to you need to bring me into sovereign computing so I can look back at what the hell I'm doing right now and be like, oh, okay.
Wow, that's what I'm doing. Wow, that's how it works. Yeah, I mean, people hear about Bitcoin and they learn about Bitcoin, and then they go, wait a second, what is money?
Yes.
It's like, I've been using it my whole life, but I've never actually thought about what money is.
I'm asking the same question.
Computing is doing to people with computers.
What is computing?
How does it work?
Exactly.
What is the internet? What is actually happening here? And you don't need to be an expert. This doesn't require everyone to become, an expert technician or philosopher on computing, or just like Bitcoin doesn't require everyone to become, an expert economist. It just makes you ask the basics.
Yes.
Just the fundamentals. Like, what is a web app? That's a question that people should have an answer to. And very few people do. But when you learn about sovereign computing and you start serving your own web apps from your own server to yourself, suddenly you're like, whoa, okay, I get it. Like, that's what a website is now. That's where it comes from. It's like running on a server somewhere, and it then is delivered over the internet to my browser.
Okay, so the basics. This all sounds good to me. I totally get the use case for this now because you laid it out so well. So I want to start with the basics. The first thing I'm thinking is, I've got like some, documents stored on Google Drive, and they're not necessarily that private, but it's, I don't know, it's stuff I wouldn't want other people reading or something. So would the first step for me be, I get the sovereign computer and then I set up my own file storage system. And that's where I now save all my files to, as opposed to on a cloud. But it still works the same way as cloud computing. I can be in that cafe in Brazil and access that document because it's in my own server, my own cloud. I know it's not I guess
private
it's kind
cloud.
of private cloud.
It absolutely is a cloud. Private
it's still
cloud.
A cloud. Okay.
Yeah, sovereign computing
it's a cloud.
Private cloud computing.
It's just your cloud.
It's literal private clouds, right? There's a lot of people that will use the term like private cloud computing. And what they mean is that you're still using their cloud. They're just keeping it private for you.
Got it.
The better word is confidential. They're not sharing it with advertisers. They're not sharing it. So that's what Apple says, is they're like,
okay,
private cloud computing. And I'm like, you're using the word private wrong. That's not private. That's confidential. You're giving Apple everything about you, and they're keeping it confidential, right?
Okay.
Private cloud computing is that it's your cloud. You're not giving it to anyone. That's privacy.
Okay. So if I want to start taking this journey myself, I don't necessarily want to start asking people in my life yet, at least, to start collaborating with me on, a specific text message app, asking them to do this with me, blah, blah, blah. First step would be like, okay, any sensitive files or any files at all, really, I want to store in my own cloud, my own Drive file. That would seems to me like a good first start. And then that's when I would use your device right here, this little box. So it's called a Start 09 or Start OS.
Start OS is the operating system, right?
And what do you call the product?
That is a Server 1.
Okay, so I get a Server 1 and I just plug it in. It's a relatively easy setup. And now I can access those services to download to my Server 1.
Yep.
And then I download the app to correspond with it. And then I can start storing, my own information and start migrating away from the centralized servers.
Correct. Absolutely correct. And the service that you would install to do that, there are two that are available on our primary supported marketplace, is Nextcloud, which is the one I would recommend, and File Browser. So Nextcloud is huge, beautiful piece of software. Roughly equivalent to Google Workspace. Not just Google Drive, not just Google Docs, not Google Meet, the entire suite. Basically everything that you can do on the entire suite of applications that Google offers, you can do with Nextcloud running on your own server. So it's extremely powerful. And in fact, if the only thing you ever installed was Nextcloud and used it to its full extent, you'd be like 80% of the way to like completely living free in the digital world. Nextcloud
that seems like the killer app to me.
It is. It is.
Just thinking about it in my own life, like the services I use.
Insanely large and well-maintained piece of software with tons of funding, because the primary users of Nextcloud, the biggest users of Nextcloud, are foreign governments. And the reason that foreign governments want to use Nextcloud is because they don't want American spyware in their administration. Right? If foreign governments were using Google Workspace or Microsoft Teams, that's basically just granting access to the CIA. Okay, so they don't use it. They run Nextcloud running on their own servers. That's who uses Nextcloud. And so if foreign governments are using it effectively to keep their data private, you probably can too. Right? And it's easy to do. Again, it's just like using Google Workspace apps.
Yeah.
So you would install Nextcloud. You would then install the Nextcloud app onto your phone. You can install the sync client onto your computer so that files are automatically synced up to your cloud.
I was going to ask that. I love that.
It works no different than the Google Sync clients and Dropbox and all of that. It's identical. It's just going to your server instead of theirs. It's really that simple. The difference is really that simple. And all you had to do was go install it on your own server first. That's the extra step, is that you log into your server, install the Nextcloud service, then go to the clients and install all the apps onto the clients. And you're going to want to get your data from Google. So you'll go to your Google Drive and get a bulk download of all your files and then upload them to your Nextcloud service. And then if you want, you can go delete them from Google once you're confident that they've been successfully uploaded to your server. And then you need to make backups. That's actually one of the biggest, here's the asterisk, ready? Here's the gotcha of all of this, is like, you are now responsible for your data, right? When you put stuff on Google Drive, they are backing that up, like probably every few minutes to different servers to make sure that if any piece of hardware fails, your data as one of their customers is not lost. They are taking responsibility for ensuring the longevity of your data, which is a double-edged sword, as I mentioned before, because it also never gets deleted, right? You can't actually delete your data from a Google server, but you can from yours, and you can lose it if you didn't make backups and the server hard drive fails. There goes your data. There goes all your pictures, all your sensitive files, all gone forever.
So back it up to an external hard drive.
Correct.
Okay.
Right now, today, there are two ways that you can back up your server.
Mm-hmm.
One is by plugging in a drive to it and clicking backup, and it will create a fully encrypted backup to that external drive. Unplug it, go put it somewhere safe, and do that regularly. You would want to do that, as frequently as you're adding new data to the server, right? If you're constantly uploading new things and having conversations and all that, then you're going to want to make daily backups. The other way to do backups is that you can do it over the air. You don't have to plug in a drive. You can do it over the air to another computer that's on the same network. So your laptop, your desktop, or even another server, you can do it over the air on that network, but you still have to go in and click backup. It's a manual process. You have to click backup. You have to choose where the backup is going and then hit backup, and it'll make it. Yeah. In a future release, the next major release, not the one coming this month, but the one coming after that, we will be introducing automated backups to any remote destination. So it won't just be a physical drive, and it won't just be another computer on the local network. You will be able to create a schedule. You'll be able to schedule events just like you would schedule events on a calendar that are recurring in nature, and as many of them as you want, and very granularly controlled. Like you could say, okay, I want to back up my next cloud server to that location and that location 3 times a day. But I want to back up my password manager service to that location and that location one time a week.
Okay, so that's another service as well.
Automatically create encrypted backups to these various locations. And these locations could be other servers that you have in other states. They could be your friends' servers, like you're storing their backups and you're storing theirs, right? It could be to physical drives. It could even be to things like Google Drive and Dropbox, because it's fully encrypted, right? You're taking a fully encrypted backup of one of your services and just dumping it on a Google server for safekeeping.
Sure.
Fully encrypted. So as long as the encryption is strong and is not broken in the future, which it could be, right? That's a small risk that you'd be taking. Your data is totally safe from Google.
Okay, but maybe better to avoid that.
Depends on what you're backing up, right? If you're backing up some benign shit and you don't care that in 30 years the encryption might be broken, then go ahead and dump it on a Google server. If it's like really sensitive stuff that even in 30 years you wouldn't want anyone to ever see, then don't back it up to a Google server. Even if it's encrypted, back it up to a physical drive or to another server that you have, right? There's a very strong use case for multiple servers, that a person wouldn't just have one server, not only for the sake of backups, but because you don't want everything running on one server, right? What if your internet goes out? Like, you can't access your files anymore. So it's a really good idea to have a couple of servers, and if possible, even in different locations. It doesn't matter where you go in the world, you still have access to everything through your phone and laptop just like you would, but there's a little bit of redundancy in your personal network. And so again, this can be an obsession. This can become like people who get into this really get into it, and they try to slowly just eliminate one third party after another, and then they're setting up backups, and it can become fun and addictive.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Okay, cool. And the point of the server one, your product, is to make this as user-friendly as possible so that I can just open it up on my computer and I can download whatever app I want to use. Let's say I start with Nextcloud because that's the killer app. Then I can look at eliminating future third parties in my life one by one as I have the time and space and will to do so. Okay.
Correct. And that's a really, really important point, because this can be overwhelming to somebody who comes at this from a holistic perspective. It's like thinking about demolishing and building a new house. Like, no.
It's too much.
Do one room at a time, right?
That's it.
Take your time. Like, I still use central service providers for certain things, and I've been building software to eliminate them for 6 years, and I still use them for some things because they're the less important things, and because I'm not perfect, and because I do things as a progress, not as an immediate gratification exercise. So it's like, take on one thing, do it well, feel the success, understand how it's working. And then eventually when you have another free weekend, okay, now maybe you'll take on your messaging. And then in the future, you take on your, you start bringing friends and family in, or you set up your blog instead of using, a hosted WordPress instance or Google blog platform. You start running your blog from your home server. Now, everyone in the world who reads your blog is getting it directly from your server, and it can't be censored. Like, you can just, the powers are endless. Anything that you can do in the centralized cloud model, you can do in the sovereign computing model, but you shouldn't do it all at once. You should absolutely take your time and do it step by step. And we, as a company, Start9, and our community, which is a very strong, powerful, passionate, and growing community, are very happy to help. Like, this is part of the process. This isn't just like, here's your chunk of hardware running StartOS, go be sovereign. This is like, when you get a Start9 server, or you install StartOS on your existing piece of hardware, because you don't have to buy hardware from us. StartOS is an open source operating system. That means you can download it from the internet and flash it to any old laptop or mini PC that you have and be up and running fully with your own server without ever giving us a dime, without us even knowing that you exist. There's no accounts, there's no nothing. It's totally free. You're welcome. We built it, have it. We gave it away. Okay. That isn't what our business is based on. Our business model, how we make money, and our reason for continuing to exist, is to warranty hardware and provide support, customer support and community for the people that are using StartOS. So that's what you're not just getting a computer, you're sort of getting us and a community along with it. And that's extremely valuable, because you're going to have questions. You're going to have fears. You're going to have uncertainties. And you're going to want somebody who knows what they're talking about, who wrote the damn software and has years of experience dealing with people who are trying to use the software, to hold your hand and help you out. If that's not important to you, no big deal. You don't have to do it. But that's why we are here, is to help.
Cool. Okay. I appreciate it, Matt. I'm excited to learn more about this stuff in the coming months and years, really. This will be a year-long process for me. Yeah. So it's you laid out a great introduction to the whole paradigm shift itself. Somebody wants to learn more about this. I know you have to get going here. Somebody wants to learn more about sovereign computing. If somebody wants to hear you or connect with you, or check out Start09 or StartOS, or get a server one, where can they go? What can they do?
Yeah, I mean, a great starting place is start9.com. We have socials on X and Nostr that are listed on that website. I have lots of podcasts that I've done over the years that, this one was very focused on introduction to cloud computing, sovereign computing, the problems with the former, the solutions afforded by the latter. And I think it's great, but I've had, very bespoke conversations about Bitcoin and decentralized financial and trust networks. And I've had conversations about IoT, the future of robotics, and how those are going to be disintermediated and controlled by individuals, et cetera, et cetera. Welcome to check those out. I'll also be happy to talk with you again about some of this in the future. But those are all listed on our website as well.
Awesome.
And yeah.
Okay. Start09.com.
Start9. Start9 is the name of the company, and start9.com is our website. Okay. The operating system that we build is StartOS.
StartOS. Okay.
StartOS. Yeah.
Start9.com. Okay. Matt, I really appreciate the time. I learned a lot. And
Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate you having me on and for your interest.
Yeah, I think many people will find that interesting. So thank you, and continue fighting the good fight.
You got it, man.